Fear has crippled more dreams than failure ever has. It whispers lies in the dark corners of your mind, paralyzes you before you take the first step, and convinces you to settle for less than you deserve. But let me tell you something that can change the entire direction of your life. Fear is nothing more than a thought. And thoughts can be changed, directed, molded into forces of power rather than chains of limitation. Every successful man or woman you admire has walked through the fire of fear, and they did not wait for it to disappear. They acted as if they feared nothing, and in doing so, they rewired their own minds for victory. That's the secret. You don't wait until you feel brave to take the leap. You leap, and bravery follows. When you walk into a room, walk in as though you belong there. When you speak your vision, speak it like it's already happened. When you approach your goal, act like it's already yours. The world doesn't reward the timid. It yields to those who are bold enough to command it. You see, the mind is like a rich soil. Whatever seed you plant, faith or fear, it will grow. Plant the seed of courage, feed it with action, and harvest results beyond your wildest dreams. But if you let fear take root, it will spread through every part of your life, silently choking your ambitions. There's a force inside you right now that is greater than anything you fear. It's the part of you that doesn't beg for permission. It doesn't ask, what if I fail? It declares, what if I win? What if I become everything I was created to be? That force comes alive when you take action, especially when you don't feel ready. There will be days when fear knocks hard. Let it knock. You don't owe it an answer. Instead, act, move, speak, build, push forward like fear isn't even part of the equation. That's not arrogance, it's control. And control over your mind is the beginning of control over your future. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is not talent, it's not luck. It's the ability to do what others fear to do, to step up, to stand out, to move forward even when your knees are shaking. Because every time you act as if you fear nothing, you become a little more fearless in truth. The path to wealth, to purpose, to legacy is not found in safety. It's found in calculated risk, fueled by unstoppable belief. And belief is a muscle. The more you act on it, the stronger it becomes. So from this moment forward, stop waiting to be fearless. Act as if, speak as if, build as if. Show up every day with the posture of a winner, the fire of someone who refuses to be held hostage by fear. Because the man who acts as if he fears nothing is the one the world eventually calls unstoppable. Fear does not reside in the outside world. It doesn't live in the dark, in the unknown, or in the opinions of others. Fear lives in the mind, and only in the mind. It is born not from what is, but from what we imagine might be. It grows when we entertain doubt, when we give attention to failure, and when we permit our thoughts to drift away from power and toward weakness. The most dangerous thing about fear is not the emotion itself. It is the belief that it is real and uncontrollable. But it is not. It is a state of mind. And every state of mind can be changed, redirected, and disciplined through conscious effort. The human mind is the most powerful tool on earth. It has built empires, created revolutions, cured diseases, and turned impossible dreams into daily realities. That same mind can be trained to reject fear the same way it's trained to read, to speak, or to build. The difference lies in how you use it. If you constantly feed your mind images of defeat, failure, and rejection, you are programming it to expect the worst, and fear will be the result. But if you flood it with faith, with purpose, with vivid mental pictures of success, the fear begins to lose its grip. The mind cannot hold two conflicting beliefs at once. You either believe in fear, or you believe in your ability to conquer it. What most people don't understand is that fear responds to suggestion. Suggest to yourself that you're not ready, and fear will rise. Suggest that you're weak, and fear will roar. But suggest with repetition and conviction that you are powerful, capable, and destined for victory, and fear begins to shrink. Suggest that the obstacles in front of you are stepping stones, and fear will quiet itself. It is not a monster. It is a whisper that grows loud only when you listen. You must learn to stop listening. You must become the master of your own emotional state. Don't wait for the outside world to create calm. Create it within. Don't expect courage to fall from the sky. Build it, brick by brick, by what you choose to think about, what you speak aloud, and what you allow to take root in your inner dialogue. The moment you accept that fear is under your authority, you begin to reclaim your life. There are no chains on your hands. The chains are in your thinking. There is no wall in front of you, only the illusion of a wall. The mind that can imagine every reason to fail can just as easily be trained to imagine every reason to win. It begins by taking control of the thoughts that pass through your mind each day. Do not let them drift without discipline. Grab hold of them. Examine them. Ask, is this thought building my courage or feeding my fear? If it's fear, replace it immediately. Speak truth to it. Speak power to it. The mind is a battlefield, and every moment you are either surrendering it or taking command of it. You can't afford to be passive. Fear thrives in passivity. It thrives in silence, in hesitation, in unguarded moments of doubt. But when you live with intention, when you decide that nothing, not fear, not failure, not uncertainty will dictate your actions, you begin to discover just how powerful you truly are. The most important victory you will ever win is the one inside your own head. When you conquer fear there, the world outside bends to your will. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop needing guarantees. You move boldly, speak clearly, walk tall, not because fear has vanished, but because it has been overruled by a greater force, the disciplined, directed, and determined mind of a person who refuses to be ruled by anything but purpose. There is no force more powerful in the human mind than a clear, definite purpose. It is the compass that gives direction, the engine that drives action, and the light that cuts through the fog of uncertainty. Fear cannot thrive in the presence of clarity. When you know exactly what you are here to do, fear becomes nothing more than background noise, an occasional whisper that never makes it to the front of your attention. Fear feeds on confusion. It multiplies when the mind is idle, scattered, and uncertain. But when you set your mind with precision on a burning goal, the fog lifts and fear fades into irrelevance. A definite purpose gives your thoughts structure. Instead of drifting through life, reacting to circumstances and emotions, you begin to shape your day, your actions, your entire mindset around that one chief aim. You stop asking, what if I fail, and start asking, what's my next move? When your purpose is strong enough, fear doesn't disappear. It simply gets drowned out by something louder, conviction. People who lack purpose get paralyzed by fear because they have nothing stronger than fear to focus on. But when your heart and mind are locked onto a vision that matters more than your momentary discomfort, you move forward no matter what stands in your way. You cannot be both timid and purposeful. You must choose. The man who walks with purpose walks faster, speaks clearer, acts bolder. He doesn't have time to entertain fear because his focus is always forward. The mind that is absorbed in meaningful pursuit doesn't have the capacity to dwell on fear for long, and even when fear tries to enter, it is evaluated through the lens of purpose. Does this thought help or hinder my mission? If it hinders, it is rejected. Purpose gives you the strength to say no, to doubt, to hesitation, to distractions that pull you off course. Definiteness creates discipline, and discipline breeds power. Once you decide what you want and commit to it fully, your mind begins to reorganize itself. You start seeing opportunities where you once saw problems. You start moving with energy where you once hesitated. People often say they are waiting for the courage to begin, but they have it backwards. It's not courage that creates purpose. It's purpose that creates courage. The moment you decide, truly decide, what you will accomplish, fear starts to lose its hold on you. A man with no aim becomes a victim of every passing fear. He becomes reactive, a servant to every doubt and every negative opinion. But the man with a goal is unmoved. He may face obstacles, but he doesn't crumble under them. He may feel pressure, but he does not quit. Why? Because his eyes are not fixed on the fear, they are fixed on the outcome. He is pulled forward by vision rather than pushed around by emotion. The mind, when given a purpose, begins to attract the knowledge, the people, and the circumstances needed to fulfill it. But the first requirement is clarity. You must know what you want. You must know why you want it. and you must be willing to pursue it with a level of intensity that leaves no room for fear to fester. Purpose turns hesitation into hunger. It turns confusion into direction, and it transforms the question, can I do this, into how fast can I make it happen? Fear is powerless in the presence of a man or woman who has made up their mind. When your life is built around a mission so personal, so necessary, and so clear that it burns in your soul, fear becomes a speed bump, not a roadblock. The more definite your purpose, the less space there is for fear to survive. Fear grows in silence. It multiplies in hesitation. The longer you sit with it, the stronger it becomes. But fear cannot stand in the presence of movement. The moment you act, even with trembling hands, fear begins to lose its power. Action is not just a remedy. It is the antidote, the cure, the force that breaks fear's grip on the mind. One step forward, even a small one, is more powerful than hours of worry. You cannot think your way out of fear, but you can move your way through it. The greatest mistake people make when they feel fear is to wait, to delay, to plan longer, to prepare more. They believe that if they wait long enough, courage will arrive on its own. But courage is not something you wait for. It is something you generate by doing the very thing that scares you. The moment you take the first step, you activate the part of yourself that fear cannot touch. Your will. And once your will is activated, momentum follows. Momentum is what fear dreads most, because fear can only survive in stillness. The man who moves is the man who wins. Fear feeds on what if. Action forces clarity. When you act, you no longer wonder. You find out. You gain feedback. You learn. You adjust. But most importantly, you take control. The person who acts does not have time to be ruled by fear. They are too busy building, learning, reaching, becoming. And it is in the doing, not the dreaming, where confidence is built. Every action, no matter how small, builds evidence in your mind that you are capable. And the more capable you feel, the less fear has a foothold. There is no such thing as a fearless person. Only people who have trained themselves to act despite their fear. They have built a habit of moving forward. They don't ask themselves how they feel before they act. They act and let the feelings catch up. Emotion becomes a servant to direction. That is the discipline of greatness, moving ahead when most people would stop and turn back, acting when others are still talking, building while others are still doubting, speaking while others remain silent. Winners act. The longer you avoid the thing you fear, the more power you give it. But when you face it, when you look it in the eye and take one step toward it, you break its illusion. You begin to see that it wasn't as big as you thought, that it wasn't as dangerous as your imagination claimed. Most fear is not rooted in reality. It is rooted in anticipation. And anticipation always paints the worst possible picture. Action replaces that picture with truth. You must learn to value motion over perfection. Waiting until you feel ready is a form of self-sabotage. You get ready by starting. You get strong by lifting. You get confident by doing. The man who moves, even imperfectly, will always outpace the man who waits for ideal conditions. Life does not reward delay. It rewards the bold. Not reckless, not careless, but bold. The kind of boldness that comes from knowing that action creates results and hesitation creates regret. Every great achievement in history began as the first step taken in faith. No one ever changed the world by standing still. They acted, even when their voice trembled, even when they failed the first time. They acted, and then they acted again. Action is not about eliminating fear before you begin. It's about refusing to let fear decide your direction. You don't need to have all the answers before you move. You just need to decide that fear won't keep you from moving. Most of what people fear never comes to pass, and what does happen is rarely as devastating as the mind imagined it to be. Fear, more often than not, is nothing but a trick of the mind, a mirage that appears real from a distance but disappears the moment you step forward. It grows large in your imagination, built from fragments of past pain, future worries, and exaggerated stories that play on repeat. But fear is a poor storyteller. It dramatizes, it distorts, it paints shadows where there is light, and it turns tomorrow into a battlefield that hasn't even been built. The problem is not what you fear. It's that you believe it without investigation. You accept it as fact without testing its reality. The mind that does not challenge fear becomes ruled by it. But the moment you decide to look closer, to question it, to push toward it, you discover how often it is hollow. There is no danger, only discomfort. No enemy, only uncertainty. No trap, only an unopened door. And the key to that door is movement. The illusion breaks when you stop staring and start stepping. People spend years running from things that aren't even real. They stay in jobs they hate, avoid conversations that would set them free, and bury dreams in the name of being realistic. But realism isn't what holds them back. Fear is. Fear dressed up as logic. Fear pretending to be wisdom. Fear disguises humility as practicality, as preparation, and all of it rooted in a mirage. They never stop to ask, is this fear based on fact or just a fiction I've rehearsed too many times? The mirage of fear is powerful because it works through emotion, not evidence. It convinces the heart before it consults the mind. It tells you that if you step out, you'll be rejected, ridiculed, ruined. But the evidence is almost never there. If you wrote down your fears and examined them with honesty, you'd realize how few are based in reality. The rest are just echoes of old wounds, conditioned responses to discomfort, and false beliefs passed down by others who never faced their own. To overcome this mirage, you must become a person who confronts instead of avoids. Lean toward what scares you. Speak when your voice shakes. Go where you feel resistance. You'll find that the fear was mostly noise. Loud, yes, but empty. You'll discover that what you feared losing was never worth keeping, and what you feared facing was the very thing you needed to grow. The people who rise, the ones who break through, aren't without fear. They've just learned not to treat it like truth. You don't need more courage to overcome fear. You need more clarity. Clarity that comes from action, from inquiry, from experience. The moment you act, the moment you test the ground under your feet, you realize the monster you saw in your mind was just smoke. It had no teeth, no substance, just size. But size doesn't matter when you're the one in motion. Momentum shrinks the fear, clears the fog, and reveals the path. Do not wait for the fear to go away. It is waiting for you to stay stuck. But the moment you stop giving it space, the moment you challenge its story, it starts to dissolve. Every time you step through the mirage, you get stronger, and soon what used to paralyze you becomes the very proof that you're capable of walking through anything. Confidence is not something you are born with. It is not a gift handed out to the lucky few. It is a state of mind, a muscle of the will. And like any muscle, it is developed through deliberate use. You do not wait for confidence, you command it. You do not beg for it, you build it. And the first brick in that foundation is action. Specifically, acting as if the thing you want is already inside you. If you want confidence, you must act confident. Speak with certainty, walk with intention. Move as if you cannot fail. Your body leads and your mind will follow. This is not deception, this is direction. You are not pretending, you are positioning yourself. You are not faking who you are forming who you are becoming. Behavior shapes belief, and repeated behavior done with persistence and purpose rewires your mind to accept a new identity. When you act boldly, even when you don't yet feel bold, your nervous system begins to learn the rhythm of strength. You are training your mind that discomfort is not danger, that courage is available, and that you are capable of far more than you think. Waiting to feel confident before you take action is a trap. The action itself creates the confidence. The doing builds the belief. Confidence does not descend from the heavens. It grows out of the ground you walk on when you move in faith. It is born when you step into the unknown, raise your hand when doubt whispers, speak your truth when silence feels safer. It is forged in those moments when you could shrink but choose instead to stand. Every time you act confident, even if your knees are shaking and your voice trembles, you are casting a vote for the version of yourself that leads. The more votes you cast, the more your identity shifts. And when your identity shifts, so does your reality. People respond to how you show up. The world mirrors your self-permission. If you move through life projecting uncertainty, the world will reflect it back to you in closed doors, missed chances, and overlooked potential. But if you walk in with your head high, With eyes full of purpose and a voice trained in conviction, doors open. Opportunities take notice. Respect follows presence. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward regardless of it. The people you admire, the ones who seem naturally confident, weren't born that way. They practiced, they failed, they tried again. They learned how to project power even when they didn't feel it. And over time, that projection became reality. The mind began to believe what the body practiced. The belief caught up with the behavior. This is how you transform. You must speak the language of confidence long before you feel fluent in it. You must walk into the room before you feel ready. Raise your hand before you feel qualified. Begin the work before you feel fully prepared. When you act confident, you are claiming your place at the table. You are telling your subconscious, this is who I am now. Not someday, now. And with enough repetition, the mind stops questioning and starts obeying. Do not wait for the world to affirm you. Affirm yourself by how you carry yourself. Let your posture declare your worth. Let your tone reflect your belief. Let your actions shout louder than your doubts. In time, what once felt unnatural becomes second nature. What once required effort becomes automatic. And what began as an act becomes your actual identity, not borrowed, not forced, but earned through action, day by day, moment by moment. Fear is the great thief. It steals dreams, delays decisions, weakens resolve, and blinds the eyes of the mind. It whispers of failure, loss, embarrassment, and rejection until the dreamer lowers his head, shrinks back, and settles for less than what he was born to claim. There is a law in life as old as creation itself. The one who conquers fear becomes master of his own destiny. The man who rules his fear rules his future. Because once fear no longer holds the reins, every door becomes a possibility, and every obstacle turns into a stepping stone. You cannot command life if you are constantly obeying fear. You cannot build greatness while bowing to what might go wrong. The individual who allows fear to dictate their choices has already given up the pen that writes their story. But the one who confronts fear, feels it, sees it, but acts anyway, that person reclaims the pen and begins to write with intention, strength, and clarity. Fear only wins where permission is given, and it can be revoked in a single moment of decision. The man who commands life is not the one who feels no fear. He is the one who no longer lets fear make his decision. He may feel the nerves, the uncertainty, the tension, but he steps forward anyway. That step is what makes all the difference. That step is what separates those who live in regret from those who live in impact. Because power in life does not come from the absence of fear. It comes from dominion over it. Every breakthrough begins with a moment when fear could have stopped you, but didn't. Every life of significance has been built on hundreds of these moments. Decisions made in the face of fear, not the absence of it. It is in those moments that character is forged. Each time you act against fear, you chip away at its hold. Each time you stand firm when fear says run, your power expands. What was once terrifying becomes manageable. What once made your knees shake becomes routine. And what once ruled your life becomes just another test you've already passed. Fear feeds on retreat. It grows when you give it room, but it dies when you charge forward, when you speak up, when you take the leap, when you walk into the storm knowing the storm cannot own you. You are greater than your fear. Your spirit was not designed to be shackled by doubt. You were not made to be ruled by limitation. Inside you is the spark of courage, and every time you act with intention, in spite of fear, that spark becomes a flame. There are people with more talent, more connections, more resources, but they remain stuck because fear owns them. And then there are those with far less, but they dare to act. They dare to face rejection. They dare to risk failing. And because of that daring, life bows to them. Not because life is easy, but because they refuse to be easy on themselves. Life rewards the bold. It honors the one who moves forward, not the one who waits for permission. If you want to command your life, you must first command yourself. Discipline your thoughts. Choose your actions. Set your sights higher than your fears. Train your mind to see the opportunity where others only see risk. Every day, fear will offer you a reason to settle, to delay, to turn back. But the power to rise lies in the refusal, in saying no to fear and yes to purpose, again and again until fear is no longer your master but your fuel.